Keeping a pulse on the CBRN world in 2025 feels like watching a kaleidoscope constantly reconfigure. There's just so much happening, from shifts in how nations work together to brand new ways of tackling contamination. It's a whirlwind.
It truly is. The interplay of global politics, advancing technologies, and even, domestic policy decisions creates a very dynamic environment. Staying ahead of the curve requires a focused effort, really, to identify what's truly significant amidst all the noise.
And that's precisely what we've done for you. We've taken a deep dive into a recent edition of CBRE World magazine, sort of sifting through it all to bring you the essential takeaways. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding the critical developments shaping the CBRN landscape right now.
Yeah, and this particular issue offers an impressive scope. It touches on everything, from the complex legal frameworks governing these dangerous materials to the practicalities of responding to real-world events and the cutting-edge innovations being developed.
Exactly. So, no need to wade through dense reports. We're your guides today, highlighting the pivotal moments and the insights that really matter, all distilled to give you a clear and efficient grasp of what's important. Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay, one of the initial points that really stood out was the unexpected connection between the Trump administration's executive orders concerning diversity, equality, and inclusion, or DEI, and, well, CBRN research.
Now, at first glance, DEI might seem, a world away from CBRN, but the magazine draws a surprising link, focusing on how one of the early executive orders aimed at ending DEI programs across the federal government has had this kind of knock-on effect in a very specific area.
That's right. As reported by Inside Medicine, this apparently led to a list of forbidden terms issued to CDC researchers, instructing them to avoid using terms like gender, transgender, pregnant person, and LGBT in their work.
And here's where it gets really interesting. These terms are frequently used in what's known as Table 1 in research papers, the section detailing the characteristics of the study participants.
Right.
In CBRN research, this could include individuals involved in trials for new decontamination methods, or maybe those being studied for their susceptibility to emerging diseases.
And the inability to use these terms can fundamentally alter how research is conducted, how its findings are categorized even. If researchers can't accurately describe who is participating in a study, they risk overlooking critical patterns or correlations in the data. It could even mean reevaluating or completely redesigning existing research.
The example the magazine gives is really illuminating. Imagine research identifying a higher incidence of, say, MPOX within a specific community.
Okay.
Public health efforts could then be tailored, right? Provide targeted information and support to that group, help control the spread. But if the researchers are prohibited from even using the term to identify that community in their analysis, well, how can they pinpoint who is most at risk?
Precisely. And the magazine raises this concern that it creates a chilling effect, a form of preemptive obedience, where researchers might hesitate to pursue inquiries involving these demographic variables just to avoid potential hurdles in getting their work published. What's fascinating here is that this issue even registered with the journal itself, which, as they point out, isn't typically focused on DEI matters. So that suggests the implications for scientific methodology are actually quite significant.
Okay, so moving from these policy shifts, the magazine also highlights some rather turbulent events within the National Nuclear Security Administration, the NNSA, and the Department of Defense, the DRD.
Yes, there's a report about the abrupt firing and subsequent rehiring of 350 workers at the Amarillo plant.
Wow.
And what makes this particularly noteworthy is that this facility is involved in the critical task of reassembling nuclear warheads. And many of these employees possess the highest levels of security clearance.
Can you imagine the disruption? Showing up to work one day, find your security pass deactivated, your computer access denied, only to get a call later saying, oh, it was all a mistake, come on back.
Yeah.
The magazine dryly refers to this as part of a typhoon of DOGE-related employment ass-hattery, which is quite a phrase.
It is. DOGE is presented in the article as this force within the Trump administration focused specifically on cutting costs within the DoD. However, the approach described isn't really one of strategic reductions in areas of inefficiency. It sounds more like seemingly random cuts, even encouraging resignations through these like impersonal emails.
It's like trying to perform delicate surgery with a blunt instrument. The magazine acknowledges that the DoD, like any large organization, probably has areas where efficiency could be improved, but it argues that DOG's methods risk losing highly specialized personnel
Mm.
and even dismantling entire essential offices without any proper knowledge transfer or, understanding of their vital functions.
The core concern, really, is that this kind of indiscriminate cost-cutting could ultimately undermine the DoD's operational effectiveness more significantly than traditional external threats.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, losing experienced individuals in such sensitive areas as nuclear warhead reassembly,
Right.
well, it has profound implications for national security.
Okay. Shifting our focus then to international relations, the magazine observes a noticeable decline in the United States' standing among many of its traditional allies and partners globally.
Hmm.
Interestingly, the exceptions mentioned are Argentina under President Milei and Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Right, and this perceived shift in international sentiment could have pretty considerable consequences for CBRN military cooperation. The article notes that U.S. CBRN military forces had been increasingly collaborating with their European counterparts, preparing for potential large-scale combat operations.
Okay.
Now, there's a suggestion that they might be more inclined towards what's described as Pancho Villa-esque expeditions in Mexico.
That's a rather vivid way of putting it, implying more unilateral or less coordinated military actions.
Seems to be the implication, yeah. The article then raises a very relevant question. What happens to the quadripartite agreement, which we understand is a CBRN-related collaborative agreement involving the U.S., U.K., France, and Germany?
Right. What happens under the Trump administration's evolving approach to foreign policy?
It raises a critical question, doesn't it, about the future of international CBRN collaboration and the role the U.S. will play. Are established alliances and cooperative frameworks going to be maintained, or are we going to see a move towards more independent, potentially less coordinated actions?
Intriguingly, though, despite some of these shifts in foreign policy, the magazine also highlights a renewed interest from the Trump administration in arms control, denuclearization efforts involving Russia, China, and North Korea.
This is presented as, a potentially positive development, a stated desire to reduce the global threat from nuclear weapons. However, the article does express a degree of skepticism, pointing to the administration's past record on other complex international objectives, and suggesting that this pursuit might also end up being, well, rather chaotic.
There's a definite sense of cautious optimism, like a we'll believe it when we see it attitude, given the administration's track record navigating other intricate international issues. So while the stated goal of denuclearization is certainly welcome,
Of course.
the actual strategy for achieving it remains a pretty significant unknown.
Okay, now let's maybe move on to a summary of some of the specific global CBRN threats and activities that the magazine highlights. It gives a kind of snapshot of recent incidents and developments around the world.
Right. Starting with the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, there were reports of a Russian drone attack that reportedly damaged the shelter encasing the destroyed fourth reactor unit.
Yeah, Ukrainian President Zelensky reported this on social media, mentioned a high explosive warhead and damage to the new safe confinement structure.
Yeah.
The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, did confirm an explosion at the site, and they're actively monitoring the situation. Crucially, though, they've stated that so far, radiation levels in the area haven't shown any increase.
That's good news, at least.
It is. Russia, for its part, has denied any involvement. They suggested Ukraine might have fabricated the report. So, differing accounts there.
Right. Okay, shifting to something less geopolitical but still concerning, this report of missing radioactive material in Newfield, New Jersey.
Ah, yes, the germanium-68 pin source.
Oh.
Small, but radioactive. It was being transported for proper disposal.
And the shipping container arrived damaged.
Exactly. Showed signs of damage and was found to be empty, indicating the source went missing somewhere during transit. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is investigating that now.
Okay. And then in South America, this big law enforcement operation, Operation Claymore.
Yeah, that resulted in a massive seizure of explosives and related materials across 9 different countries. We're talking huge amounts, over 28,000 kilograms of explosives. Plus thousands of IEDs detonating cords, grenades, detonators, and various chemical precursors.
That's enormous.
It is. This coordinated international effort led by Interpol, also led to 45 arrests, and numerous related investigations are still going on. It just underscores the persistent threat from trafficking explosive materials.
And then closer to home, here in the U.S., the FBI reported what they called the largest seizure of fully assembled, finished explosive devices in the agency's history.
Right, this man in Virginia, Brad Spafford, found with over 150 homemade explosive devices, plus a substantial quantity of bomb-making materials, and disturbingly, a target practice photo of President Biden.
Wait, that's chilling.
It really serves as a stark reminder of the domestic threat posed by individuals who have both the intent and, the technical capability to build these things.
Okay, let's turn to biological threats. There have been some worrying developments with bird flu.
Yes. In mid-December, 2 domestic cats reportedly died from suspected bird flu after drinking raw milk from a farm. They showed symptoms like loss of appetite, neurological issues.
Oh.
And tests confirmed influenza A. As a precaution, antiviral prophylaxis was offered to people who'd been in close contact with the cats.
Any human cases linked to that?
Fortunately, no human cases were directly linked to those particular feline infections, but the investigation into the source and spread is still ongoing.
But tragically, there was a human fatality in the U.S. attributed to bird flu early January.
Yes, unfortunately. Health officials in Louisiana reported the death. The individual was over 65, had underlying health conditions, and had a history of direct contact with sick and deceased birds. Genetic analysis suggested the virus had undergone some mutation within the patient. It just underscores the potential for avian influenza to cross the species barrier and cause severe illness in humans.
A sobering reminder, definitely. The threat of zoonotic diseases.
And the critical importance of robust surveillance and timely public health responses.
That's that.
Absolutely.
Okay, shifting continents again. In Europe, a notable discovery. Weapons-grade plutonium. Found in an abandoned warehouse in Germany.
Yeah, the magazine emphasizes the significance of this. Plutonium of that quality and quantity could potentially be used to build a nuclear weapon.
That raises serious security questions.
Very serious concerns about nuclear security protocols and the potential for proliferation of these highly dangerous radioactive materials. No question.
And back in the U.S., at an L3 Harris Coleman Aerospace facility in Florida, there was a fire caused by lithium powder.
That's right, an office complex fire.
Yeah.
Likely caused by lithium powder. Sadly, 3 individuals were hospitalized with burns and toxic fume inhalation. Fortunately, a built-in firewall did its job. It contained the fire, prevented it from spreading further, which highlights the crucial role of proper safety infrastructure when handling hazardous materials.
Absolutely. Then there was this rather alarming claim from Iran via MMRI.
Yes, the Middle East Media Research Institute published an interview with a former IRGC minister. He stated that Iran had established specialized groups tasked with manufacturing chemical and biological weapons.
Chemical and biological.
That was the claim. Though he did note that producing nuclear weapons was forbidden by the late Ayatollah Khomeini.
Still, those are serious allegations.
Very serious. And it's important, to remember, they stem from a single interview. They haven't been independently verified by international authorities.
Right. And the U.S. also made accusations about Sudan using chemical weapons.
Yes. Senior U.S. officials claimed the Sudanese military had used chemical weapons at least twice against a paramilitary group in their ongoing conflict. These allegations came alongside U.S. sanctions against the Sudanese military leader.
Again, deeply troubling claims of chemical weapons used in an active conflict.
It just underscores the continued relevance and importance of those international prohibitions against such weapons.
On a slightly more diplomatic note, maybe, the OPCW Director General visited Damascus.
Yes, at Syria's invitation. The acting foreign minister invited him. It marks an initial step towards reestablishing a direct working relationship regarding Syria's ongoing obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention.
So potentially a positive step.
It's a crucial step, potentially. Ensuring Syria adheres to the CWC and works towards eliminating its declared chemical weapons program. Re-engagement is key.
Okay. Then, a disturbing case in Russia. A citizen sentenced for trying to poison Russian troops.
Yes, a 20-year prison sentence. Found guilty of attempting to poison troops in support of Ukraine. The specific substance wasn't disclosed, but reportedly potentially lethal.
It just highlights the insidious ways conflicts can manifest, doesn't it?
And the very real dangers faced by military personnel, even from unexpected sources.
There are also some rather bizarre reports out of Ukraine about drone operators receiving explosive headsets.
Yeah, apparently donated headsets that were booby-trapped, designed to detonate when turned on. Russian sources claim plastic explosives were found inside the goggles.
Has that been confirmed?
No, these reports haven't been independently confirmed. But if true, it represents a particularly malicious and unconventional tactic in the conflict.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift to the business side of the CBRN sector for a moment. Bertin Technologies acquired VF Nuclear.
Right. Bertin, based in France, acquired the Czech company VF Nuclear, which specializes in radiation protection and monitoring systems. It suggests, some consolidation and expansion happening within the European radiation detection industry.
Interesting.
Yeah, signals a strengthening of technological capabilities and market presence in that field within Europe.
And some positive news from Japan. Researchers developing an antidote for hydrogen sulfide poisoning.
Yes, a promising breakthrough. They used artificial hand model compounds, basically synthetic molecules, mimicking the oxygen-carrying part of blood.
Okay.
And these compounds showed a significantly higher affinity for sulfide than natural human hemoglobin in animal trials. Dramatically improved survival rates.
That could be life-saving.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And people exposed to this highly toxic gas, often found in industrial settings or from certain chemical reactions,
Yeah.
a very positive development.
And Canada's making a big investment in defense research, $750 million.
Huge investment for a new lab facility at the Suffield Defense Research Center in Alberta. The largest single federal investment ever in southeastern Alberta, apparently.
Wow.
It really underscores Canada's dedication to advancing defense-related R&D, particularly, it seems, in the CBRN domain.
Then there's Emergent Biosolutions getting a contract modification for the Biothrax anthrax vaccine.
Yes, a $20 million modification to continue supplying the vaccine to the U.S. DoD ensures the ongoing availability of this critical medical countermeasure for protecting military personnel.
Essential for force protection.
Absolutely. Maintaining a reliable supply is vital if personnel deployed to areas where anthrax is a threat.
And something for the working dogs, a canine decontamination kit.
Yeah, launched by TDA Research and Mantle Technologies with DoD sponsorship. It gives handlers the tools to effectively remove toxic chemical warfare agents from a dog's fur out in the field.
That's really important for those canine units.
Addresses a crucial need. These animals are valuable assets and can be exposed just like their handlers.
Airbus Defense Group got a large contract for CBRN overboots for the U.S. government.
Yes, $82.3 million. Continues a long-standing partnership for this essential piece of protective equipment.
Highlights the ongoing demand.
For dependable CBRN protective gear, exactly. Ensures safety and operational effectiveness in hazardous environments.
What about Blackline Safety Corp? Some deals there.
Right. A $1.6 million deal with Total Safety for their XO8 portable area monitors. They'll go into the rental fleet for major energy companies.
Okay.
And also, Liberty Utilities deployed Blackline wearable safety devices to enhance safety for their frontline workers.
So, increasing adoption of connected safety tech.
Seems so. For real-time monitoring of hazardous environments and providing that extra layer of protection for lone workers.
And Light Novo launched a new range of spectrometers. Mini Raman operator.
Yeah, compact Raman spectrometers. Designed for defense and security applications, aiming for a user-friendly tool for field operators for chemical identification.
So, portable and rapid ID in the field.
That's the goal. Crucial for various defense and security personnel.
DuPont introduced a new garment, Tycom 6000 SFR.
Right, a lightweight hooded garment. Engineered for protection against both chemical hazards and flash fire incidents. Designed for industries where workers face multiple types of risks.
So, combined protection.
Enhanced safety in complex industrial environments where both chemical exposure and fire risk are present.
And Kendava Drug Delivery secured a big contract for duodot auto-injectors.
Substantial contract, yes. $129 million to supply nerve agent antidote auto-injectors to the U.S. Strategic National Stockpile.
Critical for national preparedness.
Absolutely. Maintaining a robust stockpile of nerve agent antidotes is vital for responding effectively to potential attacks.
Avon Protection launched a new half mask, the MITR M1.
Yes, specifically designed for special operations forces, military personnel, first responders, operating in low to mid-level threat environments. Fills a niche between basic respiratory protection and full-face respirators.
So balancing protection and usability.
Exactly. A balance of protection, lightweight for extended use, lower profile, which can be advantageous in certain scenarios.
Respirex introduced the PRPS-3 escape respirator.
Right, a CBRN escape respirator. Features smart flow control, long shelf life, powered ventilation to make breathing easier. Intended for high-risk facilities, personnel needing quick escape from contamination.
Enhanced protection for emergencies.
And improved user comfort when rapid evacuation is necessary.
Smith's Detection is supplying chemical detectors to Japan.
Yes, they're LCD-4 personal chemical detectors. Going to the Japan Ministry of Defense after a thorough evaluation highlights the performance and versatility for military use.
A significant endorsement, then.
For Smith's Detection's technology, definitely, by a major international defense force.
BioFlight got an SBIR contract for their BioTAFC 200 system.
Yes, a Phase I contract. Their technology is aimed at enhancing protection of critical infrastructure against both biological and chemical threats. Dynamic threat monitoring.
So supporting innovation for early detection.
Exactly. Early detection and identification of potential CBRN threats to critical infrastructure.
And within the NFPA, there's an effort to consolidate standards. NFPA 470.
That's right. Consolidating 3 key standards, 472, 473, and 1072 into one comprehensive standard, NFPA 470. The goal is a more concise, user-friendly set of guidelines for hazmat and CBRN responders.
And public input is open?
Currently invited, yes. Aims to streamline guidance and improve clarity for emergency responders dealing with these incidents.
Okay. Now let's turn our attention to something the magazine really emphasizes as a growing concern. Drones being used as CBRN delivery systems.
Yes, this is seen as a significant and evolving threat. The relatively low cost and widespread availability of unmanned aerial drones, well, makes them increasingly accessible for malicious actors, a way to potentially bypass traditional ground security.
Even cheap commercial drones.
Even commercially available, inexpensive drones can carry a small but potentially significant payload of the CBRN agent. Plus, being unmanned minimizes the risk to the attackers themselves.
And this isn't entirely new, right? Ahum Shinrikyo experimented with this.
They did, back in the day. And more recently, there have been reports of Russia using drones to deploy chloropicrin, a chemical irritant, in the conflict in Ukraine.
But drones have vulnerabilities. Jamming, hacking.
They do. Reliance on satellite navigation, electromagnetic communication.
Yeah.
That makes them susceptible. But the underlying technology is advancing incredibly fast.
We're seeing drones that operate not just in the air, but on the ground, on the sea.
Exactly. Multi-domain drones. And they're being equipped with increasingly sophisticated AI for targeting, autonomous attack capabilities, potential to operate in coordinated swarms.
Swarms.
Yeah. And these advancements have serious implications, both for delivering CBRN agents and for developing effective defenses against them.
Can you give an example?
Well, imagine ground-based drones navigating through tunnels, breathing persistent chemical agents in enclosed spaces, or maritime drones used in kamikaze-style attacks, carrying larger payloads, maybe even nuclear materials.
And the autonomy makes them harder to stop.
Increasing autonomy means less direct human control, making traditional countermeasures like RF jamming less effective.
And AI enhances this further.
Definitely, allowing drones to make more independent, potentially more effective decisions. The magazine mentions a DARPA AI dogfight simulation where AI beat an experienced human pilot, shows the rapid progress.
Yeah.
Then you add drone swarms. A coordinated group, some with CBRN, others with conventional weapons or recon overwhelming defenses. Creates incredibly challenging scenarios. Even without CBRN payloads, swarms are great for recon and targeting.
So the key takeaway is
Global military and security organizations urgently need to assess this. Compare drone delivery potential with traditional methods using modeling, simulation, war games, live exercises. Really understand the evolving threat.
and regulation.
Critical. Establishing and enforcing stricter regulations and international agreements to restrict the sale and transfer of drone systems that could be adapted for CBRN delivery.
Well,
Hugely important.
okay. On a more optimistic drone note, the magazine also talks about their beneficial use with photogrammetry in hazmat response.
Yes, and this is growing, significantly supported by increased state and federal funding. Photogrammetry, making precise measurements and models from photos, has become much more accessible for responders thanks to drone tech.
Even without extensive experience.
Even operators with limited prior experience can now quickly and accurately map an affected area. Modern drones with high-res cameras, autonomous flight. They capture hundreds of aerial images with precise geospatial data.
And this data creates orthomosaics, like super detailed maps.
Essentially, yes. Highly detailed, geometrically corrected aerial images providing accurate measurements of distances, areas, volumes, made from combining many photos.
And the advantage for hazmat teams.
It's substantial. Unparalleled situational awareness. Lets responders assess risks better, plan containment and mitigation, make more informed decisions faster.
The article mentions Hurricane Milton in Florida.
Right. A fuel tank damaged at the Port of Manatee released a benzene cloud. Drones with live video gave real-time visuals to all stakeholders.
Okay.
But even more critically, drone mapping using photogrammetry let the hazmat team precisely measure safe standoff distances, containment area boundaries, estimate the vapor cloud volume.
Oh.
That accurate spatial info was essential for their mitigation strategy.
So drone mapping is basically essential now.
It's becoming that way, a vital, increasingly indispensable asset for modern hazmat response. Significantly enhances responder safety and decision-making in high-risk situations.
Okay. Another significant area in the magazine, this shift in defense acquisition towards a system of systems, or SOS, approach.
Right. The goal is enhancing interoperability between different defense technologies, which requires a fundamentally different way of testing and evaluating these systems.
And the JPEO CBRN developed the realistic experimentation capability, or REC, for this.
Exactly. REC allows for early, frequent experimentation, integrating both physical equipment and non-material solutions, like doctrine and training.
So what are the benefits?
It helps identify unexpected behaviors when different systems are used together. It mitigates risks from developing multiple systems at the same time. It informs design decisions earlier, and it refined concepts of how these integrated systems will actually be used.
So it's more realistic than traditional testing.
Much more. Traditional DoD T&E often assesses individual systems in controlled labs. REC uses more operationally relevant scenarios, giving a better understanding of how threats behave and defenses perform in complex, real-world situations.
Has it been used successfully?
Yes. It's proven valuable. For instance, in the CBRN covers, Coatings and Protective Overlays program C3PO, it evaluated simple protective covers against chemical agents on equipment under realistic field conditions.
Interesting. Okay, for listeners wanting to dive even deeper, the magazine mentions the CBRN Convergence Europe 2025 conference in Poland.
That's right. Poznan, Poland, June 24th to 26th. Set to feature a distinguished lineup of speakers covering high-intensity CBRN warfare scenarios, large-scale combat ops in contaminated environments, remediation, recovery.
Who's speaking?
Experts from U.S. European Command, the OPCW, Polish Armed Forces, Nashville Fire Department, French Joint CBRN Center, British Army, Slovak Armed Forces, Allied Joint Force Command HQ Brunssum, Argonne National Labs. Quite a list. Plus a pre-conference joint respiratory protection workshop.
And lots of exhibitors.
Significant number listed, representing cutting-edge CBRN tech, equipment, solutions. Seems like a really valuable opportunity for professionals in the field to connect, share knowledge, learn about advancements.
Okay, moving from conferences to practical training. Exercise Brave Bedouin in Denmark.
Yes, an annual multinational CBRN defense training exercise. Primary focus is enhancing readiness and interoperability among NATO members and partners. The April 2024 version had 21 NATO nations, simulated over 800 distinct CBRN events.
Sounds intense.
Designed to be increasingly complex and realistic. Chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear threats. Participants use specialized equipment, software for data collection, analysis, decision-making.
And it evolves based on real-world conflicts, like Ukraine.
Exactly. Incorporates lessons learned. It's a crucial platform for testing tech and human decision-making under stress. Better preparation for real-world pressures.
What about AI?
Not fully integrated yet, but recognized as crucial for future warning and reporting systems in the training. Interoperability between national systems is also a major focus, trying to align capabilities.
And it reflects the shift towards large-scale combat operations.
Yes, integrates C4ISR capabilities, command control communications, computers, intelligence surveillance, reconnaissance, stresses seamless information sharing. Logistical constraints limit expansion, but it offers huge benefits for knowledge sharing, professional development, multinational collaboration through role-playing.
Okay, now for something fascinating and maybe more accessible, EPA research on decontaminating vehicle interiors using hydrogen peroxide and humidifiers.
Yeah, Dr. Lucas Odejan's at the EPA, researching low-cost methods for biological agents, specifically Bacillus anthracis spores, using low-concentration vaporous hydrogen peroxide H2O2 and just regular over-the-counter humidifiers.
Seriously, that's simple.
Surprisingly simple process, apparently. Requires no special skills or expensive equipment. Shown to effectively inactivate anthrax spores inside a vehicle between 5 and 27 degrees Celsius.
What about higher temperatures?
Might lead to faster decomposition of the H2O2, but it's considered a relatively low risk. And even if owners are hesitant to reuse the vehicle, the process facilitates safer disposal.
Could it be used for first responder vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks?
Potentially very valuable there.
Yeah.
Initial compatibility studies suggest it might not significantly impact sensitive electronic or medical equipment inside. The low cost and availability of materials were key drivers for the research.
But limitations exist, not for radiological.
Correct. Not designed for radiological contamination. And limitations for chemical contamination at these low vapor concentrations.
Right.
Also need to consider proper placement of blowers for air and vapor mixing.
Still, a very interesting low-tech approach.
Definitely.
Okay, finally, the magazine covered the CBRNE hub at IDEX in Abu Dhabi.
Right. IDEX is the International Defense Exhibition and Conference. The hub is a central platform there for fostering communication and cooperation among CBRNE professionals globally and showcasing the latest solutions.
What are its main goals?
Highlighting CBRNE risks: chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, explosives, all treated equally, presenting up-to-date tech solutions, building local and international capabilities, fostering innovation. And they emphasize command and control systems and training are just as vital as the tech itself.
Who is it for?
All levels of expertise, from basic to advanced, recordedly well received so far. Organizers are optimistic about future growth, attracting more national and international companies and experts, maybe even evolving into a standalone CBRN conference eventually.
And future developments showcased there. AI, unmanned systems.
Anticipated to include greater integration of AI and unmanned systems into Armed Forces CBRN capabilities. The long-term aim is to make IDEX the place where all leading CBRN companies gather in one dedicated spot.
But staying with IDEX has advantages now.
Yes, the co-location attracts a broader audience. High-level leaders, decision-makers from across defense and security who might not specialize in CBRN but need awareness.
Okay. The deep dive then revisits the East Palestine train derailment, looking back almost 2 years later.
Yes, the NTSB investigation identified key failures: wayside defect detection systems, emergency response preparedness issues, technical problems like information delays, using outdated DOT-111 tank cars. They issued comprehensive safety recommendations.
How's the implementation going?
Unevenly. Inward-facing cameras in cabs need legislation. Better bearing defect detection faces financial constraints, enforcement challenges. Phasing out DOT-111 cars is slow due to cost and disruption.
What about training and procedures?
Updating firefighter training is underway locally, but statewide overhaul is ongoing. Improving hazmat info management needs more refinement. Vent and burn guidelines are under review by industry groups.
And the community impact.
Environmental concerns and the emotional toll persist. Growing public demand for transparency and stricter rail safety laws, facing resistance from industry lobbyists.
Have there been any concrete improvements?
Some, yes. Norfolk Southern installed advanced trackside detectors. A new hazmat training center is being developed in East Palestine, though delayed. The company invested in safety initiatives, drills.
Okay.
Proposed regulations at federal and state levels are being considered, settlements reached, community health programs established. But the ultimate long-term impact really depends on sustained collaboration and whether lessons learned lead to meaningful, lasting changes.
A long road ahead there.
Seems so.
Finally, the magazine provides a comprehensive overview of CBRN weapons under international law, a crucial framework facing increasing pressure.
Absolutely. It starts by referencing that 2022 joint declaration by major nuclear powers. Nuclear war cannot be won, must never be fought.
Right.
But then came Russia's invasion of Ukraine and nuclear rhetoric, highlighting the fragility of such agreements.
And proliferation threats are increasing.
Yes, alongside tech advances and geopolitical rivalries, North Korea, Iran, concerns about non-state actors getting these weapons, it underscores the urgent need to uphold and strengthen international legal norms.
What are the consequences of violating these laws?
Global condemnation, sanctions, state responsibility, even individual criminal responsibility. International humanitarian law restricts or prohibits CBRN use in armed conflict.
Can you quickly recap the key treaties? BWC.
Biological Weapons Convention prohibits development, acquisition, production, stockpiling of bioagents for non-peaceful purposes, but notably lacks a strong verification mechanism.
TWC.
Chemical Weapons Convention prohibits development, production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons, overseen by the OPCW, which has verification and inspection mandates.
And nuclear weapons.
More complex. No single treaty bans possession outright. The Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, aims to prevent spread. The Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, CTBT, aims to ban all tests, but isn't fully in force. Recent actions by North Korea and Russia add complexity. The newer treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons seeks a complete ban, but major nuclear powers haven't ratified it, and it faces criticism regarding deterrence.
So what are the big challenges now?
A potential reversal in nuclear non-proliferation trends. States withdrawing from or defying treaties. The need to reconsider treaties due to tech advances, synthetic biology, gene editing, AI, and the growing capabilities of non-state actors.
Despite all that, the article ends somewhat optimistically.
Cautiously optimistic, maybe, suggesting the established international legal principles are likely to endure and will continue to evolve to address these emerging threats.
So as we wrap up this in-depth exploration of the latest CBRN world, it's abundantly clear the field is anything but static. We've looked at policy shifts impacting science.
Significant disruptions within key security agencies and that constantly evolving landscape of international cooperation.
We've also covered a huge array of global CBRN threats and activities, from concerning drone attacks on nuclear sites to missing radioactive materials, unsettling biological incidents, explosives. The scope is just remarkable.
It really is. And we've highlighted innovative tech uses like drones and hazmat response, advancements in defense acquisition through RDC, and the, enduring critical importance of international law in a world grappling with ever more complex threats.
We sincerely hope this deep dive has given you a much clearer understanding of these crucial developments, offered you a valuable shortcut to being well-informed without, hopefully, feeling too overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information.
Yeah.
So here's a final thought to maybe ponder. Considering the intricate interconnectedness of everything we've discussed today, the shifting policies, the rapid tech advances, the often strained international legal landscape, what single area do you believe will ultimately have the most significant impact on global CBRN security in the years to come?
That's a great question to leave folks with, and we strongly encourage you to keep exploring these vital topics. If this deep dive sparked your interest further, definitely revisit the full issue of CBRN World. It might offer even more in-depth insights into these complex, rapidly evolving challenges shaping our world.